UFC Fight Night Gane vs. Spivac is this week. I'm going to give you a full card prediction, a breakdown of all fights on the entire card, starting with the prelims to the main event. This card will be in Paris, France, so it is going to be a very good crowd. The last card that we did have in France was Tuivasa versus Gane, and that crowd was pretty awesome for the entire night through. And starting off with that, we have the great matchup of Zarah Fairn versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I am going to go with Jacqueline Cavalcanti. There isn't going to be like some big reason, obviously, like Zarah Fairn. I'm not going to say obviously, because let's be real, Zarah Fairn hasn't fought in 7 months before then, hadn't fought in 3 years, and then took some time off, I guess, after the Felicia Spencer loss, and then came back against Joselyne Nunes and then lost that one by decision. So I mean, she has the build to be successful in the UFC, but like the skill is just not there. 6'5", 40 years of age, 73 inches of reach, which is nice, but she's used to fighting at featherweight. This is going to be at bantamweight, or I think it is going to be at 140, so maybe they are doing a catchweight here. But I'm just going to take Jacqueline Cavalcanti. She actually looks decently skilled off of her regional fights. She beat Melissa Croden by decision in LFA, minus 325 favorite, 26 years of age. I mean, I trust her to win this one. She's going to be the taller fighter as well, so I think she wins this one probably by decision. Tapology agrees here. It is a women's MMA fight. Maybe she does end up finishing Fairn, but Fairn's a relatively big women's fighter, so I don't know if she ends up finishing her, but I think Cavalcanti does look pretty good in this matchup. Up the card, we have Farid Basharat versus Kleydson Rodrigues, and now, just remembering what I said, there aren't too many prospects on these prelims. This is actually a really good fight with two pretty solid prospects. I'll probably say Farid Basharat more because the Basharat brothers are pretty skilled fighters and pretty entertaining to watch. Same thing with Kleydson Rodrigues. Showed some skill early on in his career, but did pick up some losses over his UFC career so far. He's still pretty young too, at 27 years of age. He is moving up to the bantamweight division, so we'll see what he looks like in this matchup. But beat Santo Coriatolo on the Contender Series by decision, lost to CJ Vergara by split decision, and then beat Shannon Ross by KO about 5 months ago, which everyone's pretty much beating Shannon Ross by KO. So it's not super impressive, but he did what he was supposed to do. Farid Basharat in the UFC made his debut on the Contender Series about 2 fights ago, beat Alan Bagoso by decision, and then he beat Damon Blackshear by decision, which now that win is actually looking really good because Damon Blackshear actually did pretty good against Mario Batista. And Mario Batista, in my opinion, is like probably top 15, right outside top 15 kind of guy in the UFC, especially the bantamweight division. Bantamweight division is very stacked. There's a lot of depth in that division. So a win over Damon Blackshear is looking really good at this point. Third ever guy to get a twister or whatever, and Farid Basharat did pretty decent on the ground there. So I am going to go with Farid Basharat. I don't like that Kleydson Rodrigues lost a split decision to CJ Vergara. I think if you're worth your salt, at least as a prospect, I think you should be beating a guy like CJ Vergara. So, I mean, I'm not going to hone it basically on that, but I think Farid Basharat, a very skilled fighter, very good prospect. I think he is the better prospect than Kleydson Rodrigues. Although Kleydson Rodrigues moving up to bantamweight, he could pack a little bit more power in his shots. Maybe he's not cutting as much weight. I don't know too much about how much he's weight cutting, but Farid Basharat will have a 4-inch reach advantage here, 26 years of age, so he's still young as well. I think he just gets this one done, probably by decision. The Basharat brothers don't really finish guys. That's their thing. They're very skilled. They'll outpoint you. They know their way around on the ground, on the feet. Kleydson Rodrigues will have the power advantage here, but I am going to go with Farid Basharat on this one, probably by decision. 94% picked by Tapology, 77% picked by decision. I think that's probably the right bet here. Maybe Kleydson Rodrigues comes out and just KOs them or something. I mean, I don't see it happening, but who knows? Especially with flyweight, how it can be with weight cuts and things like that. It could be pretty interesting, but I am relatively confident in Farid Basharat. Up the card, we had Nora Cornolle versus Joselyne Edwards. I am going to go with Joselyne Edwards. Joselyne Edwards has looked decent recently. I mean, she beat Ramona Pascal by decision, beat Yeon Kim by split decision, beat Lucy Pitolova by split decision. So, I mean, she's looked all right for a lower level women's MMA fighter. Keeps a good range. Is more like a thicker fighter. Let's be real. She's a very thick fighter. Good at keeping range. Uses a lot of kicks, kind of just like side kicks to the body a lot, and uses that way. I don't know. all I'm going to say is Nora Cornolle, when I looked at her fights in the regional, she's not that good. So honestly, I'm just going to side with Joselyne Edwards. There's not too much going into lower level women's MMA fights at this point. It's either you're getting disappointed with crazy underdogs winning. Now this is pretty close to even, but I do semi-trust Joselyne Edwards here. Cornolle just hasn't looked that good. She did lose to Jessica Rose Clark and lost to Carol Rosa, which Carol Rosa isn't necessarily a horrible loss to have, but Jessica Rose Clark is a rough one to have about 2 years ago as well, so it's pretty recent. It's 50-50 on Tapology. I am going with Edwards. I could probably see this going either way, but I mean, I think Edwards is just a little bit more skilled than her. That's all I'm going to say here. I guess Cornolle will have the French crowd around her, so maybe that'll help her win this one, but I think Joselyne Edwards is just super lengthy, 27 years of age as well. Nora Cornolle making her UFC debut at almost 34 years of age for a woman. So yeah, I am going to go with Joselyne Edwards, probably by decision. I think she just uses her range, side kicks to the body, isn't anything like super impressive there. I think she'll just be longer on her opponent. Up the card, we have Ange Loosa versus Rhys McKee. Now, this is a very interesting matchup. I probably kind of just take back what I said in the intro about some of these fights on the prelims, because there are some very entertaining fights here. But Ange Loosa went over AJ Fletcher about a year ago too, so he's taken a lot of time off. I'm not necessarily sure why. I don't know if he's nursing an injury or what, but before then lost to Manir Lazez about 4 months prior to that, and then beat John Howard by decision on XMMA, and then lost to JDM on the Contender Series for that fight. Rhys McKee previously was in the UFC. I think he was 0-2. His losses came against Khamzat Chimaev and Alex Morono. So they're not bad losses to have at all, especially Khamzat Chimaev lost that one by KO. Alex Morono, actually a pretty good fighter at welterweight, top 15. Outside top 15, I would probably say higher level unranked fighter is what I'll say for Alex Morono. So it's not necessarily a bad loss to have. But Ange Loosa, the problem that I kind of have with him, and I don't know if he's improved since then. So he definitely could have. It's been a year, so he definitely has had time to improve on the feet a little bit more. But I noticed he's kind of basic on the feet. Like it's a lot of it is just outside leg kick, inside leg kick, jab, and then two. It's just straight shots. 1-2s, a lot of 1-2s, and then leg kicks. It's not anything unique on the feet, and I think, and he does have a little bit of power, but it's not super crazy. I think when you saw guys like Manir Lazez and the Jack Della Maddalena, they kind of mix it up a little bit more, and I think Rhys McKee, who's a little bit more unique on the feet, unloads a little bit more combos, will work the body a little bit more, will definitely give some problems to Ange Loosa, kind of just like how Lazez and Jack Della Maddalena did. And I think he can do the same thing here. 27 years of age, almost 28, 13-4, coming off 3 wins off of Cage Warriors, Alexi, I'm not going to say that one, Justin Burlinson, and then Jim Wallhead. So Rhys McKee is kind of riding a wave of momentum. Ange Loosa has been out for a year, almost 30 years of age, 29.5 years of age, 4-inch reach advantage as well. Will be the taller fighter. I don't know. I think he just does really well here. I think he just makes it a little bit rough for Ange Loosa. I don't think he'll do the AJ Fletcher and kind of just who's going to hit the 1-2s fast. That's basically what that was. They're both kind of wrestlers, or at least AJ Fletcher was a wrestler. Ange Loosa is good with guys that aren't super complicated on the feet, and I think Rhys McKee can do very well there. So that's what I'm going to say. He's going to win this one, probably by decision. I don't see him finishing Ange Loosa. Ange Loosa doesn't really get finished. I mean, he went to a decision with Jack Della Maddalena. So I think this one's probably going to be a decision win for Rhys McKee. 63% picked by Tapology, 40% by decision, 51% by KO. Up the card, we have Taylor Lapilus versus Caolán Loughran. This was a very interesting matchup because I'm not 100% certain on either one of these guys. Lapilus, previously in the UFC, I think in like 2016, 3-1, beat Rocky Lee, Oka Sasaki, lost to Eric Perez, and then beat Leandro Issa. Left in 2016, came back now in 2023. Was supposed to fight Khalid Taha in 2022. Was supposed to fight Muin Gafurov on this card, didn't end up happening. But did beat Nate Maness on the regionals, which is a pretty solid win to have because Nate Maness is in the UFC at this point. But Caolán Loughran, his last fight was a win over Dylan Hazan by KO, beat Luke Shanks by KO, and then beat Festus Ahuru by KO. And the interesting thing about Loughran that I noticed in his fights is that he's like a very, very stocky dude. I mean, I guess I don't know if I can make this right comparison. He kind of looks like Marvin Vettori from the side angle, like a very like a smaller Marvin Vettori. And now Loughran is built like a mini Pekka. I'm gonna be completely like he's a tank. He's like a little tank, like a mini Pekka. And from like a side angle, he looks like Marvin Vettori. And even he doesn't move his head. And he does have a really big head. He doesn't move it. And then early on in that fight, when he's throwing hooks, it literally looked like Marvin Vettori. It was the weirdest thing ever. But yeah, he's a shorter Marvin Vettori. Even like eats shots like Marvin Vettori. Like he gets punched and he just shakes it off and just starts going again. So yeah, he's a very interesting fighter. 27 years of age, so he can definitely get better from now on in his career. But I'm kind of worried that Taylor Lapilus might be able to mix it up a little bit more on him. I think he might be a little bit too fast, be a little bit more lengthy than a Loughran, because Loughran's a very stocky dude, and he does have the power in his hands, does have quite a bit of KOs in his career, coming out of Cage Warriors, of course. What is this? How many KOs? 4 TKOs in the second round, 1 TKO in the first round, so 5 KOs in total. I mean, yeah, he's a big power guy. What is this? Last 4 fights have been wins by KOs as well, so I am going to go with Lapilus, but I'm not super confident in this one. Tapology, I think, is picking Lapilus as well. 61% for him, 75% by decision, 20% by TKO KO. But I think Loughran does have a pretty solid chance at winning this one. But I am going to stick with Lapilus. He's entering his prime. Through different stages of their career. I think he wins this one, probably by decision. Up the card, we have Morgan Charriere versus Manolo Zecchini. I'm probably going to butcher those names, but Morgan Charriere, coming out of Cage Warriors, a decent fighter, I guess I'll say. I'm not sure why this matchup is on this card. I'm not sure why both of them are in the UFC at this point, but lost to Jordan Vucenic and Paul Hughes relatively recently, which aren't bad losses to have at all. I actually think they're probably some of the better losses you can have in Cage Warriors, if you want to say that. Paul Hughes beat Jordan Vucenic. I think he is, 2 former Cage Warriors champions. I think current Cage Warriors champion. I think, yeah, there you go. He's the current Cage Warriors champion. Took it off of Jordan Vucenic. So, lost to those guys. Only real losses that he had relatively recently as well. But for, here we go. Let's see if I can get my buttons right. But for Manolo Zecchini, who are the guys he's fighting? Abu Tukara, 7-3 opponent, 12-12 opponent. Lost Sufayev, 5-0 opponent, 2-1 opponent, 3-1 opponent. Like, he's not fighting some of the better guys. I just think Charriere has better experience with better guys. So that's what I'll say here. 27 years of age as well, similar height. I think he gets this one done. Pretty big favorite as well. 92% picked by Tapology, 66% by KO, TKO, 26% by decision. I think that's probably about correct. I'll say second round TKO, KO. There's not much going into this. Up the card, we have William Gomis versus Yanis Ghemmouri. I am going to go William Gomis in this matchup. I think he's actually a pretty decent fighter. Beat Francis Marshall by split decision, beat Jarno Aarons by majority decision, and then beat Jose Marcos by KO and Aries FC. Yanis Ghemmouri beat Mamash Raza by a knee, 10-5 opponent. Beat Mayor Shetepin by KO, 10-5 opponent. Beat Vladislav Novitsky by a split decision there, 9-3 opponent. And I just think William Gomis fought better opponents. The thing with Yanis Ghemmouri in his fights, he's a very heavy wrestling style. Like he likes to clinch. He likes to make it pretty rough on some of these guys. And I just think William Gomis is just going to outpoint him on the feet. I think he doesn't get put in bad situations on the ground. And I think Francis Marshall is actually a pretty solid prospect. Did win that one by split decision. 7-0 prospect, of course, undefeated there. And Jarno Aarons isn't that bad either. He won that one by majority decision. I think he's the better fighter here. 73 inches of reach, 26 years of age, still pretty young. Younger than Yanis Ghemmouri in this fight. And I just think he gets this one done by decision. 91% picked by Tapology, 85% picked by decision. Up the card, we have Volkan Ozdemir versus Bogdan Guskov. I am going to go with Volkan Ozdemir in this one. Bogdan Guskov, like, if you watch him fight, just his build is very interesting. He's a bigger guy, but has really, really long arms and does have some decent power in his hands. So I understand why it may look pretty competitive in the Tapology pickings here, but I think Volkan Ozdemir is still a pretty good fighter. I mean, although he has, lost to Yuri Prochazka by KO, I mean, I don't think Bogdan Guskov is going to do that to him here. I think Ozdemir is a little bit higher in skill level, has made it competitive. I guess, I won't say competitive, but hasn't really gotten finished by some of these top-level guys. Like, didn't get finished by Nikita Krylov, and Krylov's very good. He lost that one by decision, beat Paul Craig by decision, lost to Magomed Ankalaev by decision, lost to Yuri Prochazka by KO, which is a little rough one to have. Like, obviously, Prochazka is a very good fighter, very good KO artist himself, but Alexander Rakic won that one by split decision, beat Ior Latifi by KO, lost to Dominic Reyes by split decision, lost to Anthony Smith by rear naked choke, and that's all the way back to 2018. But recently, he's not really getting KO'd by guys. Just is what it is. He only has 2 KO losses on his career. I just don't see Bogdan Guskov getting it done here. It could be pretty interesting. The odds are actually pretty close. I think Ozdemir's surprisingly at even odds with this guy, but we'll see what happens. Guskov doesn't have his reach listed here, but he does look like very, very lengthy. Like, his arms are very, very long. So we'll see what happens. I am going to take Ozdemir in this one by KO. 65% picked by Tapology, 30% by decision, 63% by KO. I think he wins this one probably in like the second or third round by finish. I think he just does a little bit too much as the fight goes on. I think Bogdan Guskov is probably going to put a lot into the early rounds in this one. So that's why I'm going to go with Ozdemir by second or third round TKO. Up the card, we have Benoit Saint Denis versus Thiago Moises. I am going to go with Benoit Saint Denis in this one. I like both of these fighters quite a bit. I'm a fan of Benoit Saint Denis. I'm a fan of Thiago Moises. I think they're pretty entertaining fighters, especially unranked fighters at lightweight. So for this one, I'm kind of just relying on the fact that I think Benoit Saint Denis will probably be the more confident fighter on the feet. Thiago Moises doesn't really feel super confident when he's on the feet. I just think when you saw Benoit Saint Denis beat a guy like Ismael Bonfim with just a bunch of those body kicks, like he kind of just did what he wanted to do with Ismael Bonfim there and kind of forced himself on there, relied on his wrestling. And I think Thiago Moises does not have the confidence, and I do think Benoit Saint Denis is going to be a little bit better just with some of the power. And you saw Thiago Moises against a Yoel Alvarez, where he kind of just shut down a little bit more on the feet there, and I just think Benoit Saint Denis will do a lot better on the feet. I think the wrestling and grappling kind of cancels out. Maybe Benoit Saint Denis goes for a couple takedowns. Of course, Thiago Moises, I think, took down Islam Makhachev in their fight. So Thiago Moises has very good wrestling, has very good grappling as well. So we'll see what happens if it ever gets into those situations. But I think Benoit Saint Denis will end up being the better guy on the feet. I think they probably do cancel out, and it might rely a little bit heavier, especially in the early rounds, on the feet. And then maybe they move to like a wrestling style later on as the fight goes on. But I am going to go with Benoit Saint Denis, 11-1 fighter. Only lost to Elizu Zaleski. That one was a very rough fight to watch. I don't know if you guys remember it, but the ref ended up getting like kicked out of the card because he just allowed Benoit Saint Denis to just take so much damage on that one. But that was his only real loss. Elizu Zaleski is a very tough fight for a lot of guys, but I think Benoit Saint Denis will just be too much for Thiago Moises, or at least the stronger guy on the feet. I just, when Thiago Moises is fighting on the feet, I just don't feel like he believes in his striking that much. So Tapology's picking Benoit Saint Denis, 82%, 43% by decision, 23% by submission, and 26% by KO. I don't know if he submits Thiago Moises. I think that one's actually pretty interesting. I'm not sure why. I think he'll submit him. Maybe he ends up doing it, but I see him winning by decision here. By just 3-round decision. Does pretty good early on in the fight on the feet, and then I think he just moves towards trying to wrestle him in like the third round to just bank around and take that one off, just not to avoid possibly losing to a very dangerous guy in Thiago Moises, who did put up a couple good submission attempts against Islam Makhachev on the ground himself. So we'll see what happens in this one, but I am going to go with Benoit Saint Denis. Up the card, we have Manon Fiorot versus Rose Namajunas, and now this is a very interesting matchup because we have not seen Rose Namajunas since her last fight about a year and 2 months ago against Carla Esparza, where she lost by split decision. obviously pretty well known that they literally did nothing in that fight. I don't know if Rose Namajunas should have lost it if you're being super technical on the scoring, but I mean, I'm not sure anybody won after that fight. The fans didn't win. The fighters shouldn't have won. They probably should have just vacated the belt after that. I'm going to be completely honest. But since then, Rose Namajunas has done like some grappling tournaments, but it just seems like she's kind of out of it, in my opinion. I don't know if anyone else is seeing this, but it does seem like she's kind of out of it. I don't know if her mind's completely focused on fighting. It seemed like she was just complacent with getting submitted by Julian Robinson. And how fast was that? 1 minute and 5 seconds into round 1 at Fury Pro Grappling. So I don't know. I think Manon Fiorot is just going to be better on the feet here. And what is this? Rose Namajunas is moving up to flyweight as well, which I don't really like. Manon Fiorot will be 2 inches taller, 1 inch reach advantage, 33 years of age, so she is going to be the older fighter. I think she just gets this one done, probably by decision. I don't know if she KOs Rose Namajunas, but I think she just schools her on the feet and wins this one by decision. 69% picked by Tapology. Manon Fiorot is 78% by decision, 15% by KO. Maybe she does possibly get a KO and just finishes her up on the ground. But I just see her winning this one by decision, using kind of that length a little bit more, fighting on the outside. I mean, we're talking about Manon Fiorot, who's coming off a win against Caitlin Chukagian 10 months ago, beat Jennifer Maia by decision, beat Mayra Bueno Silva by decision. Like, these wins are Tabitha Ritchie. That's a pretty good win to have at this point. Like, those 4 wins are pretty good to have, especially Chukagian, who's a very good fighter, Maia, and Mayra Bueno Silva, especially recently. So I am going to go with Manon Fiorot in this one by decision. Up the card to our main event, we have Ciryl Gane versus Serghei Spivac, and a pretty big main event here, especially for Ciryl Gane, who is coming off a loss to Jon Jones. Before then, beat Tai Tuivasa in France, lost to Francis Ngannou by decision. Serghei Spivac coming off a win against Derek Lewis, where he kind of just ragdolled him quite a bit in that one. You never really see Derek Lewis get ragdolled like that. Looked pretty impressive there. Looked really strong as well. Fight before then, beat Augusto Sakai by KO, and then beat Greg Hardy by ground and pound. So Serghei Spivac doesn't have the best of wins, especially recently. Did end up losing to Tom Aspinall within, 2 years ago, but Serghei Spivac is a very, very good wrestler, a very strong guy. Again, he was ragdolling the crap out of Derek Lewis, and you never really see many people do that. Ended up submitting him with an arm triangle. So I do like that the odds are relatively low for this fight. -175 favorite for Ciryl Gane and +150 underdog for Serghei Spivac. And I remember when this matchup was made, people were like, who the hell is Serghei Spivac? Like, Ciryl Gane should be higher odds. And I was like, I don't know, man. Serghei Spivac has really good wrestling. A very big dude as well. For heavyweight, he's like deceptively big for that division. And he's a very strong guy, 28 years of age as well. 78 inches of reach. Ciryl Gane will have a 3-inch reach advantage in this matchup. Will be 33 years of age as well. At heavyweight, the age doesn't really matter too much. I am going to go with Ciryl Gane. And now part of me thinking into this matchup was like, okay, Serghei Spivac actually has a really solid chance. Ciryl Gane refused to really fix his grappling game against Jon Jones after the Francis Ngannou fight. And really, maybe it was just Jon Jones is that good, and he just schooled him on the feet, or not on the feet, but like schooled him in the wrestling grappling department. Ciryl Gane just had no chance, even though Ciryl Gane looked like he was shitting himself before that fight. But I'm gonna go with Ciryl Gane here. He's a very athletic dude, and I think he can get this one done. He has the length on Serghei Spivac, and I don't know if I see Serghei Spivac having a dominant grappling and wrestling performance that a Jon Jones did have, and if he does, he's definitely putting his name on the map here. But I just think Ciryl Gane gets this one done. Is going to be way better on the feet. I think he probably wins this one by finish. TKO probably third round is what I'll say, but Ciryl Gane looked decent against Francis Ngannou when he was not expecting wrestling and grappling. I'm not saying that the wrestling and grappling of Serghei Spivac is similar to Francis Ngannou's, because it's definitely way better. But I think Ciryl Gane will definitely learn from this fight, or at least I hope so. I mean, he should have learned after the Ngannou fight. He should most definitely learn after the Jon Jones fight. So my guess is that the wrestling and grappling will be fixed here for Ciryl Gane. If it's not, he's going to be in a lot of trouble, and I'm going to be pretty pissed. I'm not going to lie, because I'm kind of banking on the fact that Ciryl Gane is improving at least a little bit more, especially after those 2 losses due to wrestling and grappling. So I think Ciryl Gane wins this one on the feet. Probably the 3rd round finish, catches Serghei Spivac and finishes him up on the ground. Tom Aspinall, I believe, finished him. I think this was a 3-round fight, if I'm remembering correctly. Tom Aspinall beat him in the 1st round, 2 minutes and 3 seconds in. And maybe Ciryl Gane can do the same, but I think Ciryl Gane, with the crowd behind him, definitely be doing pretty well here. I think he learned from his mistakes, or at least because I chose John Jones in that previous fight because of the wrestling, grappling, just higher level, because heavyweights are just not good in general. But I just think Ciryl Gane gets this one done. Too athletic, stays out of the way of Serghei Spivac's attacks, trying to get the takedowns. And I just don't think Serghei Spivac has enough for him on the feet to get him worried. So I just think over time, as the fight goes on, I think Ciryl Gane looks a lot better and ends up winning this one by finish, 3rd round TKO over Serghei Spivac in this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about this card down below, and I'll see you guys next time.